Any primers in the chat? Anyone got PBE access and trying out the new game mode? We know that we got a couple guys. I guess at least one guy that's been doing it a lot. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Facecheck. Tom, how are you?
Good as always.
LS, how are you?
Well, Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that from Dom? What the fuck? No, things are fine. No, it's fine. That was simplistic.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Things good here as well. Damn. You've been playing a lot of the 2v2 mode, LS.
I've been playing a shit ton. I think I have like over 100 games now in 3 days or something like that. 2 days? I don't know. Yeah, I'm playing a ton of it. Mostly like, I don't know. The cool thing is I get to spend time with some players that normally I would never like get to like spend time with outside of like chatting about the game or like them asking me about builds or drafts or whatever. So I've been playing a lot with Unforgiven, Griffin, Trimby. Yeah. Fun. It's good.
Why do you like it more? Obviously, you get the interaction with other players, but what else about it is damn cool for people that don't have access to PBE?
It's a very different spin on League that so back in StarCraft, there was actually, so this is like a really old story from like 2008, 2009. There used to be these really small money tournaments. And when I was a teenager, this was like one of the only ways that I actually made money every week. There was this use map settings mode called Team Micro Arena. And me and a guy named Marcoon from Germany, who was really bad at StarCraft 1, but he was really good at this. No, not that Marcoon.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
It was good because he was really bad at the actual game, but in this custom map, he was really, really, really good. And so I would do 2v2s and I'd do 3v3s with him, and we would actually beat like some of the best non-Korean players like in the world at this mode, and we'd win like the cash prizes each week. And it just reminds me of that. It's such a different game. I imagine that we're gonna get like people who are really bad at Summoner's Rift, or that they just don't play Summoner's Rift, but they're gonna be top tier players in this game. It's cool. Different skill set.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting because it reminds me like on a even more extreme scale of Twisted Treeline. So a lot of people don't know, but like I became a pro player because I was really good at Twisted Treeline, and I was ranked 1 in Twisted Treeline, and I was playing tournaments which were hosted by like TSM at the time and other organizations, and I was just playing with like my real life friends, and we were winning the tournaments. And because I got known in that game mode, I was like, okay, let me play more of like Summoner's Rift, because at that time in like early 2010, you didn't know which game mode was going to be the most popular, because there was a period where there was all these tournaments for Twisted Treeline, but there was no tournaments for Summoner's Rift. So I was committing a lot of time there, and the people that I was playing with were like, I guess what will be the equivalent of like plat players right now in Summoner's Rift in ranked, but in Twisted Treeline they were like top tier players. You know, like my squad was just the best. So it's the same concept of like there's some players that just have like good micro, they have just no sense of like the map, they have no idea like what's going on, and that's why they can't play like a big map game. But in battle arenas, I mean, there's going to be some insane players, and I'll tell you right now, there's a player named Averse who played a ton of Battle Right. He was like kind of the go to Battle Right, and I played with him in a bunch of different games. He was actually a challenger player in League when he put time into it. But this guy is like the GOAT of battle arenas. This name Averse, keep it in your head. I swear he'll be the GOAT of this game if it pops off. I don't know. He's just so good at these types of games.
All right, making the early call here. All right. Well, hopefully that'll be coming out to everyone. I mean, not hopefully, it will be coming out to everyone very soon. And keep the game fresh. Something that we've been asking for a long time, at least when we talk about declining player base, declining viewership. Maybe a new game mode will get everyone back together. Plus, they have the Soul Fighter event that is happening where each region has a duo. We have Skara and Meteos. Like, all right, that hopefully they'll represent us well, and that'll get some folks back into the game. Let's dive into the week that was LCS. Week number 3 happened last week. You had a battle at the top with Cloud9, Evil Geniuses. You had FlyQuest getting himself a couple of wins. But before we got to the battle of Cloud9 and EG, C9 did drop their game against Team Liquid. We're thinking, okay, everyone's beating everyone, back to the parity thing. The soup of everyone that was at, I think everyone was like 2 and 4. Kind of got a little bit mixed up here with FlyQuest finding some life. Dom, with LCS, what jumped out at you the most this week?
Well, FlyQuest looks at least like they can win games again, and I think that this week was super good for that team's mental. Obviously, when you lose 6 games in a row and you're supposed to be a super team, it's really hard for you to remember what winning feels like, or like focus on the actual games themselves and not be caught up in like all the pressure that comes with people talking about your team and, all the decisions you make being criticized, and your value as a player can drastically change. I mean, we're seeing it right now with Vitality, right? Like one bad split, it could completely kill your reputation within the scene. It could go from you being like one of the best players to being like, oh, this even belong in the league, So I think that this week was super good for FlyQuest mental. And I mean, I just want them to be like at top 8. I know last week we did our predictions of who was going to be top 8. And some people were already out on FlyQuest. The reason I wasn't out is because, number one, I've seen the format so many times that I know how few wins you actually need. Like, this almost guarantees FlyQuest is in the next stage, just being 3 and 6. Because if they win 2 more games, when you look at the form of Immortals, you look at the form of TSM, like, who do you think is going to be the most capable of winning 2 more games, which is going to be generally the breakpoint, 5 and 13? I think that this week, like, the main thing that I took solace in is like, okay, FlyQuest is going to make playoffs. We're going to get to see them play best of 5s, which I want just as a viewer.
Yeah, that was me. I was the one that was out on him.
Yeah. Are you still out on them?
I think no, because I didn't think that they were going to beat whoever their first match was. Who did they play their first match? TL. I don't think they were going to beat TL. And so getting that win, I mean, both their wins on against TL and against Energy were both shaky, not sure if it's going to happen kind of wins. With the win against TL, it was maybe they're not going to close this one out. It's going the distance. With the one against Energy, it required Spica to steal Barrett because Energy just, oh my God, Energy just don't know how to close out games. But I think the main thing that you said was it was the confidence, right? They getting the wins here. Now they're confident. Now they're able to go do their winners interviews. You can hear everything building up from Impact to Vulcan to Spica, and I think that makes the world difference. So no, I mean, both of you guys said Immortals TSM, or one of you said Immortals TSM, the other one said Immortals Energy. Looking good right here off the top. What did you make of the wins here, LS?
I mean, for FlyQuest, their wins were really scary to me because I felt like they actually should have lost 2 of the games that they ended up winning. Oh. I thought that the Team Liquid game should have been unlosable for Team Liquid, but it looks like Team Liquid, I don't know what it is. It's like they came off of the major spring split break. They boot camped. Team morale must have been like high or something. I don't know. They started winning, and then what the fuck happened? I actually just don't know. I can't comprehend it. But even in the game against FlyQuest, they're super far ahead at multiple points. FlyQuest continuously keeps making similar errors that they made in all previous weeks, but Team Liquid actually just played worse in the game. So FlyQuest ends up winning a game that they should not have won. And in another game they end up playing, the same exact thing happens, where the game is way too close for comfort in a situation where they should have lost, and then they end up winning. And I think like what Dom's saying is it's totally accurate. They're going to make playoffs. They're going to make top 8, etc. The issue arises, I think, in the best of 5s, where what the hell is actually going on with this team? And it doesn't make any sense to me. And, I've jokingly said, to Papa Smithy, like, who the fuck makes the calls where they just literally turbo in? And I don't know who it is. I've not actually attempted to find out like who it is. One thing that I can say, because this is this is back from March, April, right? Prince gets really mad with the int calls or the 50-50s. Apparently Prince is a 90-10 player. He does not want high variance situations. He does not want variant situations.
He's an LCK
and he gets
player.
really upset.
Yeah, low
But
risk.
yeah, I mean, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that like Piglet's attitude is going to be an issue for this. I mean, Prince's attitude is going to be an issue for this team. Just when you have a AD carry that has, a big ego that obviously is considered a star, and they come over here and things are not being, played the way they want, it affects the whole team, and it starts becoming more of a thing of players not thinking about like what's the right decision in game. It's like what's going to keep our team's mental together. So. I don't know. There's a huge issue going on. Also, like Vicla's performance is still bad. I don't know why. I don't know how this guy is so bad in lane. Like, how does he just play the lane so poorly every single time? Considering the fact that he grinds a fuck ton of solo queue, and when he came here, he had like a massive laning advantage over pretty much everyone. So I think that is still the most curious part of FlyQuest to me. Spiga doesn't look mega comfortable, but also I think his role on the team is just to be a fucking dog. Like he's just. Ivor and Sejuani, Maokai on repeat. Just don't make any plays, don't hit the game, just play stable and, go for Drakes and stuff, and we'll just win because we have like better players later on. So the team is it's not looking good. Like I'm not like really impressed with their 3-0, but when you look at the overall strength of the league and you have like EG, Cloud9, Golden Guardians, those are looking like your top 3 teams. I mean, the other teams, Dignitas, TL, 100 Thieves, like I don't feel like these teams are that good. So I feel like it's not that hard for FlyQuest to still look bad but end up top 4.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an answer here. Maybe TL, but I mean TL has gone what 2-4 in the last 3 weeks. So after starting 3-0 and everyone was on the train and it was good. Things.
They look the same way as old TL. That's the biggest issue. Is when you look at Spring, it looks like they lose games in the same way, where they just have like just very curious decisions. And then the more you look at TL, the more you question how they're ever going to be a top team with Haeri as a mid laner. I just feel like he's so outclassed in this league that if you're not having a game where Pioshik is absolutely smurfing, where he's diving lanes and he's mega ahead and Summit's winning lane. If you don't have a game like that and you end up in a more stable game, is Haeri going to be able to even like do his job within the team or like do what he needs to do in a team fight? It feels like he's so prone to mistakes. He's so prone to like getting hit by skill shots, getting chunked before fights, or being late on an engage, or playing too safe. Like there's always an issue with how he's seeing situations that I feel like they're just limited. Like their ceiling is lower than you'd expect.
It was 2-0 on the Static Shiv LeBlanc this split. 2-2 on Haeri, which is a signature champ for him. And 1-2 on the Annie, definitely where the drop off kind of has happened there for him. But yeah, Team Liquid will have to keep an eye on I guess the stability of Haeri, because when I've been asking players in interviews, hey, do you have your I guess underappreciated MVP kind of vote, most underrated player? I had like 3 people say Yeon. They're like, I think Yeon is pretty nasty, and what he's done for the team has been under the radar. So again, same thing as last split. Yeon carrying the load for that Team Liquid Academy squad, and Haeri going underappreciated. LS, thoughts on this TL squad?
I mean, my thoughts are that I feel like as the split is progressing, they're getting worse, like I said earlier, and I don't know what necessarily causes it. I don't know if it's complacency. I don't know if it's being back in NA and being comfortable with being back in NA, and the environment that they're in just is not conducive to growth. I'm not totally sure. I mean, maybe it's scrimming NA teams, right? They were in Europe. They were scrimming EU teams. So maybe that's like a contributing factor to some of the things going on. Maybe they're actually being pushed harder during their European boot camp, and so they're fresh. I think Dom hits really the nail on the head in that if Pioshik is not getting unnatural advantages, he's not going to find game-winning plays in even game states. And if Summit isn't getting really far ahead, then the team has a lot of difficulty functioning. So, yeah, I mean, it feels really bad, to say the least. I think the only like one saving grace that is like starting to, well, not, I don't even want to say that it's actually starting to happen. I think it's just people are lazy, is a lot of the engaged type supports are coming back. And I think that's an aid to CoreJJ, because then you don't have to play an enchanter for the AD carry, you know, and yeah.
All right.
What? Let him cook.
Yeon's been having a good split.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also laning with like CoreJJ. You know, that's part of why I think people are not giving him so much credit. Is you have like arguably the best support in the league right now, maybe second best support in the league, something like that. And like when you're watching the games, it feels like you don't notice as many Yeon pop-offs. You notice more of like his mistakes. Like it's very rare that he like surprised me in a game and like makes a play that I wasn't expecting, or like he plays the situation out, like he plays the sequence out perfectly, and I'm like, wow, like that was, you know, beyond what I think the level of LEC is. It's like he's exceeding the average level of LEC or LCS. I just don't see that from him. So like normally I'll more notice like, oh, he made this mistake in lane. Oh, this was like a dive that should have worked. Oh, he could have got an extra kill here. I just think that his game should be pretty easy overall. Like his game should be easy with who he's laning with, and the fact that he doesn't look like really insane. I mean, he doesn't even hit the level of like Tactical, for example, in Tactical's rookie split when he was playing with CoreJJ. Like that, he's just not hitting these levels that you expect.
No, I was talking with Unforgiven. This was off stream yesterday, for a little bit after we ended, and like one of the interesting points that he brought up about playing ADC and NA versus like EU is when you think about Europe, it's almost like every single ADC is actually like a pretty decent level. It's like they're almost all A tier, and then you have S tier, and then you have like a Z tier, right? Or like 2 Z tier AD carries in Europe. Whereas in NA, you actually like go down to like C tier ADCs, and there's almost no S tier AD carries, right? There's Berserker, who's like Z tier in NA, and then you have like Prince if he's really in form, and then you have Unforgiven. But then after that, it like I was having this conversation with him, and it's like everyone else is almost like low B and C in terms of like actual skill level, and then the supports just wildly like vary. The range on them is just so wide, and what you can expect out of them and what they're capable of doing, and that's another like really weird thing that's going on in NA.
So then, what do you make of performances like Tomo, who's had a good split, or Tactical, who's had a good split in terms of compared to, I guess, what we thought they were at? Where would you rank them?
Are we saying that they have a good split? Like up until this point?
Tomo has definitely had the best split of his career. Yes, I can say that one. I think Tactical's had his best split since his first split on Team Liquid.
Sure. I mean,
isn't that
it's
like
kind of hard for
relative?
Tactical,
Yeah.
because a lot of the mistakes that Tactical would make would be like late game team fight ints. That was his huge thing, is that he just would suicide in the middle of a team fight, and you instantly lose the game. And Immortals has been like so bad in a lot of their recent games that they don't get any of these fights. Like everyone's just getting picked off one by one. And, you know, they just lose a fight. They get aced. 5-0. There's no real like. There's no chance for him to potentially int the fight because there's no fight. It's just they just lose the game. So it's hard for me to judge how good Tactical, or like if Tactical has improved since his like time, for example, on TSM, because his laning was always fine. Like that was always the thing that I thought was okay with Tactical. He could lane, but then after lane, he would just massively int the game, and that's just the worst sin you can commit as an AD carry, right? Like you can't make massive mistakes late game. So I'm not sure like how well Tactical is playing relative to before. And then for Tomo, I mean, I think he's playing okay. I mean, he's doing his job, but best split of his career, I mean, that's still like a B tier, C tier. Like this is not something insane. I mean, he's went from being maybe like D tier to C or B, but it's not something insane. Like if I were to rank all the AD carries, like I would obviously just have the ones we mentioned, Unforgiven, Prince, Berserker. I think they're all clearly better than Tomo. And then I don't think Tomo's like exceeding the level of, for example, like Stixxay this split. I think Stixxay's been better. So yeah, I mean, I think B tier, C tier makes a lot of sense when you're thinking about Wild Turtle, Doublelift, FBI, Tomo, Tactical. Like, there's no one that's really bad, I would say, in LCS right now. I just don't think that there's like that many superstar AD carries. And the thing that's obviously really damning as well is when you saw what happened at MSI. I mean, people that look like the best AD carries in North America look like they can't even compete with like the LPL AD carries. Like like Elk was in the mix. Like some people had him second, third, fourth. Like he was like that type of player in LPL. And then you look at what he did to Stixate. It's like, man, this guy, like we're talking like 7 fucking kills in bot lane at like 8 minutes. Like it looks like you're playing. It looks like you took a challenger player, put him in a fucking iron game, and just unleashed him.
That as yes, there was definitely a game where that was a who he sticks a problem, but I had the chance to interview River and Blabber, and they both said the pace of the Asian teams is what threw them off. It was so fast, and we can just constantly recall all the bot lane dives that happened to get them ahead. So that felt a little more like team created and less bot lane created. But yes, your point stands there. Those were the two of the best roles that we felt like we could hang our hats on, and it wasn't the case. Also, I like your analogy for tactical. It's basically, you can't fire me, I quit. If they can't get to the point where you throw, you just lose already. All right, let's move to the top of the table because there was a clash between Cloud9 and Evil Geniuses. It was the match of the week. It was hyped up. MVP JoJo talking shit. Armeo on great form. Obviously Unforgiven has had a great impact on the league this split. And they got just fucking destroyed in record time. 22 minutes. LS.
I mean, the bot lane, it starts with the bot lane, right? Our Mao's pathing away into top, and Kindred sees the early trades level 1. Unforgiven took the call conversation stuff a little bit too far with like me and him and stuff. Like, we had so many combos about like longsword call, all this other stuff, right? Because literally every game is just going call in bot lane for the past 6 games, right? And what ended up happening is they get traded on level 1 really hard. And when this happens, you need Longsword 3 Potion in order to sustain to fade a dive. And it seems like Blabber acknowledges the level 1 trade, and then he just goes for the bottom dive. And if Unforgiven and Isla have Longsword 3 Potion, and they can trade harder at level 1, and the enemy bot lane is missing more HP, the dive's not possible. But because it's only call 1 pot, Unforgiven doesn't have enough HP. The dive is like really easy. Blabber sees it, and our Mao's just pathing away. So as soon as that dive happens at bot lane, everything just goes to shit. And the bot lane's just completely removed for the game. And, mid lane also just not able to really do anything. And it was just a complete shit stomp.
What'd you make of the Janna pick?
The Janna pick was bad. The Janna pick didn't make any sense. I don't understand why it was picked in that particular game. I don't know what the logic is. Like, I mean, I actually could probably ask and like try to find out, but I thought it was bad. I'm always like a fan of seeing new picks and stuff, but I'm confused when like they're just picked in really bad spots.
Tom, what'd you make of the game and also the Janna pick as well?
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Janna pick, especially when you look at like what his teammates can do. It didn't look like it made sense within what his team was doing. It made sense in context of like Janna was fine in the lane, like versus the enemy support, but it felt like it wasn't thought of like holistically. That's the first thing. That game just, it felt like a game where just everything went wrong. Also, after the lanes collapsed, JoJo was the only one that had any type of laning advantage, and then 3 people show up mid and the whole game is over. So there wasn't much to make about that. I mean, I feel like that's a game where you can fix those problems really easily. Like you can just buy different items on AD carry level 1. You can path towards bot lane. There's a bunch of different things that you could do to try to like make this game more stable, and then you just play it out from there. It's just when you fall behind like this and a team is diving over and over again. I mean, it was reminiscent of BLG versus like T1, for example, where bot lane was just getting dove every single time, and then the games just exploded because of that. So it was good to see. I think that was probably the best game that has been played in North America from like Cloud9's perspective. I think they played like a really, really solid game start to finish. So that was nice to see. They just ran the whole game. They didn't make any mistakes. Like everything just came together.
Yeah.
It snowballs out of control for Evil Geniuses. is it still just Cloud9 favored? This is all just still Cloud9's league until someone knocks them off consistently in the top side. So like Team Liquid obviously getting their win, but stumbling, that kind of doesn't matter as much as like a Evil Geniuses winning, and that would then maybe you would say, okay, cool, they're the better team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's close. I think Cloud9 is the best team. Like, even when they lose the game, like they lost the game to TL because they went for a pretty greedy bot lane. I mean, Zyracon, this is one of the things that this is one of the things you're susceptible to. But then also when you look at Cloud9, they don't have to play Zyracon. Like, they don't have to play engage supports. They can literally just play Sven's like champion pool that he's good at. They can just play all the champions that he's good at, all the enchanters, all the range supports, and they'll just win the league. It doesn't matter if they're nerfed. It doesn't matter if like, you know, they're not optimal in a lot of situations. They play well with that. Berserker's an insane AD carry. You give him tools, he'll carry the game. And Blibber's just been the best jungler in the league for a while. So, I mean, the only person that can really contest him, in my opinion, is River. So you look at all these types of things, you put it all together, and I mean, even though Cloud9 has the same record as EG, I mean, we saw what it looked like when the teams played each other. And when Cloud9 takes other teams seriously and they're playing like to win life or death in NA, I just think they're going to win.
News just came out on Twitter from EV. Looks like TSM is going to roll with Insanity this week. So Ruby got his go, had a tough go, and ends up...
we could have seen this coming.
Yeah, ends up losing his spot here to Insanity after going 0-3 this week. It just feels like a tough spot to be in overall. For me, like... You want your import to get in there. You want them to have an opportunity, and you give them a week. You know, no communication, practice, no getting used to everything, and it's just the reality of the situation. But it feels not poorly planned, just unfortunate. Feels unfortunate for the Ruby experiment. Not saying that it's done yet, but what do you make of it here, LS?
The Ruby experiment, I mean, I've told the story on stream a few times. I tried to stop Ruby from going to NA. Well, not like Ruby from going to NA, but like I tried to prevent that acquisition. And the story that I ended up telling a few times is like, basically, TSM was moving really fast in the offseason with Reven, and Reven had to like choose players really quickly and what they were going to do because they just wanted to just run it, right? And there was no time to get someone else. And I had tried to tell Reven about two other players that I thought would be like Berserker level acquisitions that are amateurs from Korea. And he just said that there was no way to actually like get VODs on them in time and like do all this other stuff. So he went with Ruby. And the reason that he went with Ruby was because Ruby's like agency or management or whatever provided tons of scrim VODs from LEC of Ruby laning against Larson and Caps and Perks and all these other players, and Reven thought that Ruby's laning in LEC in those scrims was really good, and that if he could lane that well in the scrims, then, you know, in a better environment and stuff on stage, it would be okay. Now, I don't share the same opinion, just because of what I saw on stage. Now, when he came on stage in LCS this past week, I literally every game I was getting so fucking mad at how bad he lanes. I was losing my mind. Like the game Annie versus Jace, where he's like unironically auto attacking Jace, and the trades are just losing on the basis of minions alone, and it's like, do you not even realize what's happening? Like, I don't know how it's possible to lane as poorly as he's laning while being an import level player. It's like really, really, really bizarre. But then one of the other things that I was saying is like, it's really weird with how bad Ruby's laning that the other mids aren't getting advantages on him. Like, at least in terms of CS or, you know, these types of things. Now, I don't think that any of TSM's losses this past week had anything to do with mid lane. I think even if Insanity's there, they still lose all of those games, even if Insanity's there. However, there was no upside to Ruby in any of those moments, and I think that's the main point.
Yeah, I mean, I was very vocal about the Ruby situation. I said beforehand, it just makes no sense to import a Ruby level player. Then he shows up and he plays literally exactly how you expect. I mean, I didn't expect anything different than what the rest of the world expected, which was him to just come in, you know, look out of sorts. I mean, the thing that's the most damning about Ruby is that he showed when he was with Heretics that he has no awareness of like what's happening within the game. Like he doesn't see like good flank angles. He doesn't know when to TP to fights. He's bad at side laning in terms of like knowing when to go to side laning, knowing how many waves you could push. Just being able to use his advantages in the game if he has any, or like champion advantages, anything like that. We've seen this out of Ruby. We saw it for what, 24 games or something in LEC. It's enough, man. Like I hate seeing imports like this because there's no way that Ruby is better enough than Insanity that you'd rather that you want to shake up the team. And TSM is a team that, for me, I think they're going to fight to not be bottom two. They're a team that could very easily get bottom two. They probably should be bottom two when you look at rosters. It should be them and Immortals. So the fact that they're like throwing a week away to have Ruby just show up and, you know, just shake up the team and see if he's good, and then it's like, oh, whoa, what a surprise, Ruby's not good. I just think it's really bad for like the like momentum of the team, because it felt like they were, after their week 1 and 2, they should have been feeling pretty good about themselves and their performances. So if they kept on going with that, maybe they could iterate on what Insanity was doing mid. Suddenly teams have a different mentality when they play TSM. Do they have to ban Graves every game because, you know, he was playing that mid all the time? Does that open up other champions that they're good at? There's just a lot that you could use when you have that consistency and you have what Insanity brought to the team. It felt like he was at the very least showing a different look from TSM, and it made other teams uncomfortable. So then watching Ruby play, it's like, I don't know if the same thing is going to occur when Insanity swaps back in. Like, obviously, I assume he wasn't getting the majority of the scrims with the team, so he's probably sitting on the outside. Then they have to reacclimate to Insanity again. He plays a completely different game than Ruby. Ruby tries to be like the standard S tier mid, where he's just going to, you know, pick his Azir. He's going to pick Ahri when it's good. Annie, like, he'll just pick the meta champions and try to just perform on that. But he's not good enough on those picks that it gives you any leverage in the draft. I mean, just look at their draft versus EG. They ban out 3 mid laners, one of them being Ahri, right? Because everyone's just scared. They're just scared shitless of JoJo's Ahri. I mean, because he's performed on it. And obviously, that was a champion that he got really high rank in Korea with. So they ban Ahri to pick Azir, when that's an Azir favorite matchup. Like, Azir just could win out in that lane. They pick Azir, they get counterpicked anyway, and then, you know, they just, like, they lose the game. Ruby's down in CS to JoJo, even if, like, JoJo gets ganked once. It doesn't matter. JoJo could do whatever the fuck he wanted in the game. Then you see Ruby get counterpick on Azir later on, and he doesn't do anything in that game either. So it's like, what is the point of this player? Like, what does he bring to the team? How does he keep on getting jobs? How does he keep on getting to steal paychecks? It doesn't make any sense. Like, how do you turn in a 10th place performance in LEC or 9th place performance, whatever it is, and then turn around and be like, yep, I got another job for me in a tier 1 league in LCS? It makes no sense. Like, I don't understand how that could happen when you don't even have, like, a bunch of results on, you know, a previous team to show for it. Like, maybe if somebody on the Vitality team that is 10th place, you know, gets a job next year on a decent team, the idea would make sense. Would be like, okay, well, that team was just doomed, and like a player like Upset, we've seen him be really good before, so we still believe in his talent level. Like, I could see the logic there. I don't understand the logic of picking up Ruby. It doesn't make any sense to me what he would bring. He's an import, so that means that, like, there's already just things that come with being an import. Like, is he going to be comfortable in the environment? Like, how is his communication going to be? Like, is his English 100%? From what I know, it's pretty good, but is it, like, is he able to just communicate and not, like, think when in game? Like, he can just say what he wants without having to think about what to say. Is that, like, going to give you any advantage? No. So where does the advantage of Ruby come from? It's like they want him to be this dominant laner, but then he's not a dominant laner. I just don't understand, like, these types of imports. And it's been done consistently in North America, right? We talk about it all the time, right? We saw the Armu pick up, we saw the Blue pick up, we see the Ruby pick up. Like, if somebody is looking bad in another region, I don't understand why they just get a job in LCS for free.
Right.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to interview both Wild Turtle and head coach Reven. Sam, don't call him Samsung Sung. And basically, the timbre, I'd say the tone of how you feel right now is kind of the conversation with Turtle. Because normally what I ask players, especially when they get a new teammate, is like, hey, what do you think of their new teammate? You know, it's a softball question, and usually they'll find, like, the redeeming qualities. It felt like Turtle was just listing the reasons why. He seemed fine with whoever, but just building some consistency. But when we talked about Ruby, it was like, well, you know, he's a control mage player, and you know, he'll provide that when we need it if it's in the meta. It was kind of interesting. With Reven, he takes responsibility for the call and breaks down his thought process, because in this video is coming out tomorrow. He said on Wednesday, on their Wednesday loss, after their Wednesday loss, 2 of the players were late to the LCS facility to come to LCS. So he's like, hey man, he was steaming, he was fuming. It was a really good interview. You should go check it out. That's probably my favorite one of the week. But he like straight out called out his players in the content. And
did he say
to
which
Ruby's
players?
credit, off screen he did, but to Ruby's credit, it wasn't Ruby. Right. Yeah. And so
he's on time. Give him a job.
Yeah, Ruby was on time. Give him a job.
He's an LCS player, and he can actually be on time, which is, you know, it's a horror in esports. So I respect that. Never mind.
Exactly.
I've completely changed my tone. Give him the job for the rest of the year.
Well, Insanity will be coming on in for this next split, or next week. In it, I think he said we'll still experiment and then we'll go with the best team moving forward. But that might have been all of the Ruby experiment right there. Just 0-3, a frustrated squad. Yeah, kind of interesting. Let's move to the soup, the middle of the LCS. Which one of these squads do you have the biggest hope to kind of make it into the top 4 for now? If you had to pick one of these, Dignitas, TL, and 100 Thieves, who would you have?
Oh, I guess TL.
Yeah, I think it's just TL. I
hate it though. I don't like picking TL, but they're probably the best out of this group. I mean, 100 Thieves still looks mega shaky. Like they just look really out of sorts. Not really sure what to say there. And then Dignitas just feels fake to me as well. Like Rich, you cannot win like in LCS or get top 4 in LCS with Rich being like your fucking hard carry. Please tell me that's not a thing. Please let that not be a realistic proposition. He can't just be the best fucking player in fucking top lane in LCS. I watched him run it down. I watched him run it down for a full split in V5. He can't be the best top laner in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think TM. I don't know. Dignitas is really funny. From some of the LCS players that I talk to, it's really weird that everyone just talks so negatively of Dignitas. Like somehow they have 5 wins, but you would actually believe that there's 0-9. What do you mean? Yeah. Well, no, from the ones that I talk to.
It's like Heretics at LEC. Like I get the same impression when I talk to players. Like no one actually thinks they're good, but they they have like a good record. Dignitas is the same thing.
Yeah. Funny.
I mean, the Alawi was obviously a little fun for their win against Energy. Energy is just wounded. They're just so wounded and can't find they can't find a win, even if it was just right in front of their eyes. But you know,
I mean, it's crazy, right? Because imagine if they just won the 2 games that they massively threw, like the one versus Immortals and then the one
FlyQuest.
versus FlyQuest this week. Like imagine if they just won those 2 games that they massively threw, where they like had the game completely in the bag. It's completely different. Like they'd be 5-4. Everyone would be like, oh, you know, like they're always like 4th through 6th in LCS. It makes sense that they're here. You know, that would be the narrative. And those 2 wins, like also, when you just look at player cams, man, Dokla is not taking losses well. Like he is not. He is the one that loses his mind when the team throws games. So I have more faith in Energy than like. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Energy is just a better team than Dignitas by the end of the split. They're 2 games down right now in the standings, but I could easily see Energy just being better than Dignitas. Like Dignitas is not massively impressing me. Just Energy is, they obviously had some bad losses and they're just like not in the best like mental space, but they should make playoffs, right? Like it should be pretty easy for them to make playoffs. So Energy makes playoffs, they could turn it around. They could once again place like 4th or something.
yeah, because they have wins against Cloud9 and against Golden Guardians. Like they have quality wins, but the losses are just so painful. They're just so painful, man. Like they're not.
They can't close games. I mean, it's really hard to watch them try to close a game because what happens is they always make like one mistake. So, for example, in the game versus FlyQuest, they're winning, right? And then they go for this play where they're expending major resources. They're expending like Rel Flash, they're expending Wukong Flash in order to try to like pick a Renekton on side lane, which isn't going to even transfer to anything, because like realistically, the person that's the worst to pick off in the whole game outside of the support is the top laner, because the top laner is going to have TP, and you don't get a Baron window just because the top laner is dead here. If you use Wukong ult and Rel ult and you kill the Renekton even, you start Baron, it's 4v5. Enemy team has the ability to TP and still fight. Like if you don't have the tools to turn, which are your Rel ult and your Wukong ult, you no longer have the ability to like do anything besides for flip the Baron. You can't really zone the enemy jungler, and the whole situation is fucked. So what happens with COG consistently is they make like one mistake, and then it compounds into like 5 different mistakes, and then that's just like one horrible situation, and that just completely skews the game. They make this play top where they're like, oh shit, we're going for this like Renekton kill. I guess we have to TP LeBlanc because we're not like sure if we're gonna actually execute the kill or not. So they TP LeBlanc, and then because they TP'd LeBlanc top, they felt like they needed to Baron because Vikla was sitting bot with TP. So if they like reset and then LeBlanc goes and tries to match Vikla, then Vikla has TP advantage, and they like aren't comfortable with what that would create on the map. So because of that, they end up starting the Baron, and then while they're on the Baron, they realize they're like, shit, bro, we used our Wukong and our Rel ult, so we can't really turn. So I guess we like flip it. And they weren't sure that like the enemy team would be able to aggro Baron. They're like, okay, we'll stop the damage on Baron at 4k, but then Prince just starts dropping Aphelios turrets in the back of the Baron and keeping it aggroed, and then it becomes a whole flip. And then suddenly, off like one mistake to try to kill a Renekton top lane, you have like a 5k gold swing minus fucking Baron, and you don't even have like Soul coming up, so you don't have another fight. And you don't have flashes on your Wukong and your Rel, so you don't have the ability to like force something. It's just like a whole list of fucking problems that happens off just like one mistake, which should be a pretty like easy mistake. It's like, you know, when you're in a game, if you're playing jungle, you know, in a game, if you're playing Wukong and Rel, that trying to kill the 2-item Renekton that just completed a Sterex is not normally good. Like you can find a better angle than that. You don't need to be chasing the Renekton with 2 items and a Sterex to tier 2. So that should be something that just feels wrong in the game. I don't know how to put it, but when you're playing a game of League of Legends, if you are a jungler and you have, you know, Wukong with Cleaver and Divine Thunder going on the Renekton to try to pick him off is not good. You can kill him at like the end of a fight, but trying to force on him is it just feels wrong. Like it'll set off something in your brain when you start doing it. You're like, this is a little sketchy. So these mistakes, like if they just eliminate the first mistake, then they won't panic their way into like the 5 extra. They just need to like take it slower. I mean, when you have all these tools, you can breathe, you know, like it would be better if they even started Baron and then they use their tools than trying to like make this Renekton pick top lane. And I mean, the same thing happened with Immortals, where it was just one mistake into the next, and then suddenly you've thrown a 10k gold lead.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like maybe they had solved they had found a way to stem the bleeding in that victory against Golden Guardians as the longest game of the split. That 50-minute multi, like, was it all 7 Drakes get picked up before the Elder Dragon gets picked up, banger of a game. And it's like, cool, Energy found a way to win. That's what they needed. They needed the FlyQuest situation. You just need a case of wins here to get rid of this, like, constantly making it worse. But definitely not the case afterwards, as you have pointed out. LS, thoughts on Energy?
Well, NRG, I mean, they're the one bottom standing team that randomly does manage to take games off the top teams. And it's really weird when it does end up happening. So I think in that regard, it's always interesting to sort of watch them play. I don't know if they're going to have a dark horse run like they did in Spring Split, as like the split progresses and then we move into playoffs and stuff like that. But I do think that they can actually just be better than, you know, Dignitas. I do think that, you know, they can actually best, you know, even Team Liquid or something in like a best of 5. I don't think any team right now, the way that things look, are realistically going to touch EG or Cloud9. Like I'm not, so like even in the topic of like NRG and stuff, I don't think that underdogs in this split are miraculously just going to change gears and then suddenly become on top. Like, I don't think that Team Liquid is going back to the way that they looked in the first 2 weeks, and that it's suddenly going to matter. I don't think that, like, FlyQuest is going to change gears and then end up being favorites against EG or C9, regardless of, like, the players. I think that, you know, trends in NA have just remained way too consistent. And because it's actually consistent, I think the NRG will likely end up being consistent, at least in that regard.
All right.
Do you think EG is actually a better team than Golden Guardians? Because like I think Golden Guardians is still a better team personally.
Man, I don't know. It's like, it's really weird. If JoJo's playing really well, then I mean, EG's weird. EG drafts really fucking bad sometimes, and that whole part is obviously very confusing. I don't know. I feel like they're somewhat similar in some ways. Like I think that Gory, I think you can always expect him to be the same exact way, whereas you can't with JoJo, right? I think Armau's actually like just very stable and consistent, right? River has really high highs and then he has like really sinful lows. So there's that whole stuff going on. I think that, you know, the revenge licorice stuff in top lane is sort of like whatever. But I think that the bot lane, I think EG is actually more stable. Yeah. I mean, Unforgiven's actually one of the most stable AD carries in the world right now, like CS and everything else. DPM, you know, all that good jazz.
Yeah, and he's not getting like 4-man raw dogged under his turret at like 2 minutes into the game.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I mean, the other thing that I'm looking forward to is what is going to happen on the no static meta. Because now with no static meta and AD carries, I mean, I said this on my stream yesterday, that AD carries are the dumbest fucking players in the entire world, where they
Agreed.
can't.
They don't deserve rights.
What I mean is like,
That's what he said.
It's like, it's mind blowing to me that they don't realize that Jinx is still viable. Because they'll come out and they'll say stuff like, you know, oh well, you don't have Gale Force, and it's like, well, that's really weird because in a lot of your games you built Kraken Slayer, so you didn't have Gale Force there either. You know, like in the past, right? They just forget that part. And then they're like, she got nerfed recently. And it's like, yeah, actually, she lost 5 AD and 5 attack speed or 5% attack speed at level 18. Like, if you can't play Jinx because of these nerfs or these changes, they're like, but Gale Force is really important in some games. And then you go through their games and they blew the Gale Force because they walked up to a wave too early and they had to Gale Force defensively and then they didn't have it for the team fight anyway, but they still managed to play the team fight because it's all fucking perspective. Yeah, AD carry players, dumb as shit. Jinx is still like, unironically, probably one of the best ADCs. I think people don't read items. I was going on a rant about this on my stream yesterday.
Played in other regions, by the way. Like, there's no reason
Jinx
to not
is
play
still
it.
picked up. Right. There's no reason to not play it. So no one's playing Jinx though, which is like a really big thing. And I think that now with the static thing, everyone's going to overreact, and we might get enchanters in bot lane, and we might get non-traditional ADCs. And I actually think this is probably EG's biggest advantage, because I think that Unforgiven's the only ADC in like, or only top ADC in the league that plays non-traditional ADCs. And this is kind of like Danny, right? You know, it's the EG ADCs, just the non-traditionals.
Wait, but isn't your point that if Jinx is gonna come back in the meta, or should be back?
No, she's not gonna come back because ADC players are dumb.
Oh, I see.
By the way, Static Shiv still
I just wanted
has
to point that out.
Static Shiv has I mean, one thing I wanted to say about Static Shiv is I still think that it does have purpose and it does enable certain champions. So one thing that people are doing in LPL, Uzi did this specifically, is he goes Static Shiv on champions that like have lack of wave clear, like for example Vayne, and he'll just go minion dematerializer. And like if you look at the Static Shiv's nerfs, they're just like the AP ratios that got nerfed. But he was building 0 AP when he was playing Vayne, right? Like he just went Static Shiv into Triforce. So I think Static Shiv, like, people in NA just go like Static Shiv Kai'Sa, you know, like Static Shiv on Varus, and then they just go full AP on these champions. Right. I think that Static Shiv will still have like purpose. It'll still like allow you to use interesting picks, but I wonder if like just because the AP ratios were nerfed, people will just completely you know, just give up on the item. Because I think for certain champions in certain games, like if you have a really good Vayne game and then you give a static shiv plus minion dematerializer, the fact that Vayne can walk up to a wave and auto it like 3 times and kill the whole fucking wave, like that just completely changes the way the champion is. Because before, one of the biggest weaknesses of the champion was that you could always have push in mid. Like you would just walk up to the wave, one shot the wave, and then Vayne is sitting there for like 30 seconds hitting the wave. So I think that there's still going to be interesting picks there. But yeah, I think that in NA people like they over-indexed into static shiv being just like a broken AP item. Like you could still build the item for the purpose of the item and not like abuse it to the highest tier in every situation. So there's interesting parts. Back on the Golden Guardians EG situation, the thing that for me I'm more confident in with Golden Guardians is I just feel like they have more structured games. Like when they play a good game from start to finish, they're like, everyone knows the roles on their team. Like they have very defined roles. It's like who he's good at engaging. Like Licorice knows like when to flank in team fights. Stixay like, you know, will just deal. Like everyone just knows what they need to do in a team fight. And I think that because they've had that experience going to MSI and, you know, playing and having success before, I still just believe that Golden Guardians will be like top 2. So I would think that Cloud9 Golden Guardians are still top 2 to me, even though EG is like looking slightly better right now, I'd say.
Who is the best mid in the league then? Is it JoJo?
I think JoJo, yeah.
Alice?
He's in form.
JoJo, Gory, M&S.
I think like, yeah, I mean, I think I would like grade some of them like differently, right? But I do think that maybe JoJo all around is just, I think, I don't know if it depends, right? I'm still remembering Spring Split, right? And there's like the moments where he can have. So I don't know. Maybe it's really close for me between. Is it just? Yeah, I will just say yeah. I guess it's JoJo. I mean, for now.
Okay. Well, we've gone through all the teams. Some of the matches that happened this week in the battle for second, since I guess Cloud9 pretty much took care of the battle for first against Evil Geniuses. Halfway through the split, done. 3 more weeks to go in our regular season. To close it on out, let's head on over to Facecheck Bets. Did I do it right? Facecheck Bets. Yes. Powered by
Facecheck All In.
Bet. Facecheck All In. God, I keep thinking Facecheck Bets. Sorry.
Okay. Host.
Write it down. Facecheck All In. Bam.
I'll host.
Oh, please. All right. Facecheck All In. Let's go to our bets powered by esportsbet.io and go with odds for this week's matches. One jumps out at me right away, so I'm going to take it. Golden Guardians and FlyQuest. Golden Guardians are the underdog to win. It's basically 2.2, so a 2-to-1 for them to win. FlyQuest is 1.8, so honestly, you could bet either side of that if you feel comfortable on it, but I'd feel like give me Golden Guardians there at 2.02, like 2-to-1. All right. What else jumps out at you guys? LS.
I mean, I feel like I think C9 versus Golden Guardians is actually probably free money. I think the odds are too high for C9. That doesn't make any sense. I think they're actually just way too favored. Golden Guardians are looking worse since like they returned from MSI. So like I think that really stands out. I think TSM is also really favored against Immortals. I think this is just like a battle of the standings where I don't know. I don't understand why TSM has 1.6. I think they're actually a lot more favored against Immortals.
For me personally, I like the TSM Immortals game. I'm betting on it, but I'm going to bet on game time duration because I feel like bad teams just can't close. Yeah. So whenever there's a bad team matchup like this, I normally look at to see what the line is for game duration, and if it's under like something like 33, I'll normally take it. So when I already put my bet in when I got it, it's what the line is right now, 1.8 odds for over 30 minutes. Like, I just think that the game will go past 30 minutes based on how these teams play. Like, I can't imagine Immortals. Like, this is the game where Immortals feels like they need to win. This is the one easy game they've had. They've just lost a bunch of games in a row. I feel like they'll come into this with some, like, you know, draft that allows them to scale. They'll probably throw Kenvi on Maokai or Ivern or some shit like that. They're going to try to scale, and I don't think TSM is going to just be able to like take over the game and win quickly. So even though I do think TSM should win, I think it will be a like very long, shitty 55-minute LCS game. So I think over 30 is good for me.
I love that as like a just a side note. It's also the beginning of the week, right, where they could throw out a weird fucking draft, the first game of the day. So maybe it is something that goes longer there. All right. So we've got game time duration, TSM Immortals for Dom. I have taken the dog, the quote unquote dog, Golden Guardians over FlyQuest. And then LS had the TSM Immortals, TSM odds a little too high, and also the free money, Cloud9 against Golden Guardians. All right. There it is. Facecheck All In. Again, thanks to our friends over at Esportsbet to make it happen. You can head on over to the YouTube channel if you haven't already to subscribe to make sure you catch it when Facecheck is happening. Final thoughts. Where is everyone going to catch you this week, Dom?
Yeah, I'll be just doing my same streams. I'll be co-streaming all of LCS. If you like Facecheck, you want to watch the LCS games, you can watch them over there, or I guess you can watch them on LS's channel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll be doing that. There's a week off of LEC next week, which is nice. And yeah, I'll be doing all the LPL games. OMG plays like 3 matches, so I'll be cheering on my team.
All right. LS?
I just do LEC right after this, and then tomorrow I cast the Drew 2 show match thingy that he's doing with like some of the EU streamers. I don't know exactly what time that is. I think it's like 8 p.m. in Europe or something. He's doing some show match thing, so I'm gonna cast that with Drew 2. And then I think there's also like more of like the boot camper in-house scrim stuff. That's pretty much it. And then obviously like all the regular co-streams.
Damn.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I think I had 10 interviews uploaded this week on my YouTube channel, so go check them out, especially the TSM ones. It's pretty... I mean, the result is already out now with Ruby getting benched, but yeah, seeing Turtle kind of be passionate like that was pretty interesting. So I had Turtle, 100 Thieves, Double Lift. I had Berserker and Blabber this week. So a lot of good interviews. Make sure to check those out. Let me know which ones you want to see for next week. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you guys next week for more Facecheck. See ya.